Good. That was a thumbs up sign?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
You're gonna have to get closer, Rich.
And then-
Pull it to you.
Hello, everybody. It's time for us to continue with our meeting of the Waterville Valley Select Board. And I'd like to open a public hearing for the bond and budget presentation. Let me introduce who's here at the head table. Of course, everybody knows Sharon, who's here in a capacity as the Assistant Town Clerk, and Vice Chair of the Select Board, Margaret Turner. I am, for better or not, your Chairman of the Select Board. Bob Freeze is a Select Board member. We have Town Manager Mark Dakota and the Chief of our Administrative Department, Steve Royal. So I think what I'd like to do here is just move along.
We have our other department heads up.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. And sitting in the back are all the department heads. If you have any questions for Public Works, Public Safety, Recreation. Am I leaving anybody out? I think that covers everything.
All the hooligans are out back.
Yes. Okay, so if people have picked up the handouts that were off to the side. Some of you have done this before, so without much ado, why don't we just go ahead with the budget and bond hearing, which are required by state law before our town meeting on the 14th of March here at 6 p.m. And I'll leave it at that. So. Mark,
Okay, thank
take
you,
it away.
Rich. So I'm supposed to do an obligatory joke, but I'm not gonna tell a joke this evening. I'm just gonna apologize for all of you having to sit there and listen to me this evening. But I want to encourage you that as I'm going through the slides, if you have a question, please come up. We are recording this. So if you would come to the front to ask your questions, that'll allow you to be out over the speakers so everyone here can hear you and everyone online, or if someone watches the meeting afterwards, they can hear you as well. So I just want to quickly review the packets that we had on the table. I hope everybody got a set when they came in. There are three things that we're gonna be looking at this evening. There is, first of all, the packet that has been around town for a couple of weeks that is a numbered bond and budget town hearing packet. Okay, looks like this. Then there is a packet that has two slides on the front. This is the information about the bond, that we have 3 bond issues this year. So this is the information that I will review first about the bond issues. And then finally, there is a thicker packet that also says town operating budget. Okay, so after we finish talking about the bond issues, we'll move to the town operating budget and we'll be using this packet. All right. One other thing before we get started, because we have so many people here in town, and we want to minimize the number of phone calls next Monday, probably starting Saturday or Monday, you're going to receive a piece of paper in the mail from the town of Waterville Valley notifying you about a situation with our water. It is a notice that we missed taking some water samples during the month of December. We are required to send this notice out to you when we miss a sample. There was administrative error. We have taken the sample and it's been submitted to the state. But it will be a piece of paper that talks to you about lead and copper testing. Okay, so please read through it. give us a call if you have any questions, but it does have an explanation of the corrective action that we're taking. And I just want to let everyone here know that the sample has been taken and it's at the lab for testing now. So
Are you gonna
that
start
will
with
be in your,
the bond hearing first?
yes,
So
so-
publicly,
go ahead.
so for the record, we will go ahead and publicly open the public hearing for the bond
Bond hearing, yes.
issues.
So that is this packet, all right? All right, so let's get started. First of all, I just want to, I'll be using some terms during the evening, and I just want to give you a couple of definitions up front. The operating budget, when I'm talking about the operating budget, that is the expenditures for our department operations, which do not include bonding, all the special warrant articles that we're going to review this evening, or capital reserves. All right, this is just for the operation of each of the departments in the town. Revenues, when we are talking about revenues, we're talking about fees and income other than tax dollars. So what happens is we have a total budget. We then estimate revenues. We subtract that from the total budget, and the remainder is the amount of taxes to raise. And then the term appropriation, you're going to hear me say that word a couple of times this evening. An appropriation is an amount of money that you as town meeting voters authorizes to be spent during the year. So each one of these warrant articles is an appropriation that you are making, okay, as a town meeting. And then that authorizes the Board of Selectmen and our staff to spend those monies for those purposes during the year. All right, next slide. So the bond hearing. The hearing is required. This hearing that we're in right now is required by state law. Whenever we ask for an authorization to issue a bond over $100,000, it has to be a warrant article. It has to go through this hearing process, and then we have to vote on it at town meeting. You have to vote on it at town meeting by written ballot. And it takes 3/5 majority to pass a warrant article, a bonded warrant article. So we are, as I said, we have three of these articles for this year. They are part of the town's capital improvements plan. The CIP, the capital improvements plan, is a function of the planning board. Each year, the planning board and a subcommittee of a couple of members of the planning board meet with the department heads, and we review a 6-year plan for major purchases of equipment or improvements to buildings or other facilities in the town. And we update this plan every year, but it helps us to look out and project what we're going to need to purchase for what I would call big ticket items as we go forward with our budget. It includes all of the capital needs that the department heads have laid out for the replacement of vehicles and equipment and that sort of thing. It is looked at by the planning board in terms of the town's master plan. And we try to even out these purchases over the year, over the 6-year period, and try to give you as taxpayers an idea of what's coming up in the future for major purchases. That's it. So if you look on the handout packet that's been around town, and you look at pages 8 and 9 of this packet, right? Pages 8 and 9, you will see a 2-page town capital improvements plan. We're going to be focused on. So it looks like this in your packet. I mean, 9 and 10, sorry, 9 and 10. I said the wrong numbers, sorry. 9 and 10. Looks like this. We're going to be focused on the far left column under 2023. You can see that this lays out not only the bonded warrant articles, but also some of the special warrant articles and the other things that we pay for from another funding source, such as tax dollars. But this lays out everything by department, and you can see what the projection is out through fiscal year 2029. All right.
It's not a commitment.
It's-
It's an estimate.
That's right. Good point, Bob. Thank you. You are not voting on anything other than specific projects or equipment or whatever warrant articles for 2023. Everything else, 2024 through 2029, is just a projection that is not being acted on by this town meeting on March 14th, okay? They're just projections. So no commitments to that. Next slide. So just a couple of charts here to give you an idea. If everything on these two sheets were approved all the way out to 2029, if all of them were approved, then our total debt for the town minus the wastewater treatment facility, okay, that's everything except the big $37 million number there under 2023. It would be this green line on the left-hand chart. And it's also in your handout, you can see. So this is just year to year what our total debt is for the town. The bottom blue line just shows you year to year what's being added to that total. The reason that the top line goes up and down is because it takes into account the payments on that debt each year. So it's being reduced by an amount each year based on the bonds and notes that we have outstanding. And that is the chart on the right-hand side shows you how much we are paying back on those notes each year for that same 2023 to 2030 time period. It is cumulative. The green line at the top is cumulative. The blue line at the bottom just shows you each year. The number on the right, or the chart on the right-hand side, shows you the annual payments. Okay. So this is the one we've all been waiting to talk about, right? So the three bonded warrant articles have to be in order of the size of the bond. So obviously the first thing when we come in on March 14th for the deliberative session at 6 o'clock, we are going to first talk about the wastewater treatment facility bond authorization. And this is a project for the replacement of our wastewater treatment facility and the relocation of our transfer station. It is a requested authorization of $37 million. The funding for this, we are currently planning to do through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And we will be seeking other funding sources such as grants or other assistance. But we have not identified exactly every funding source at this period or at this point in time. This $37 million is going to be combined with a warrant article that the town meeting approved back in 2021 for $5 million for a total project cost of $42 million. And I'll break that down for you in just a minute. First thing, the bottom line is, why do we need to do this new facility? Back in December of 2020, we were notified by the Environmental Protection Agency that we were going to be given a new discharge permit. So the EPA controls us and monitors us and sets the limits for contaminants that we have to treat our wastewater for before we can discharge it into the Mad River. We've had this permit since our existing permit since 1974. And we have been meeting that permit every year since then. We are monitored by both the EPA and the state DES, Department of Environmental Services. We have to submit tests and samples for the water that we discharge into the Mad River. So this permit in December of 2020 was modified, and we went through a process to respond to the new requirements that we were going to be under. For several months, we had discussions with both the state and the EPA about the new permit requirements. And we finalized that new permit in April of 2022. So we were given, from that point when the new permit went into place, we were given until October of 2026 to build a facility that can meet the new permit requirements. So we have been, since the permit was finalized, we have been working on the design phase of getting the new plant designed. We're in the middle of that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. But so we are working towards that deadline of October 2026 to put the new plant into operation. One of the main reasons that we do this, obviously, is to protect the water quality, both here in Waterville Valley and in the Mad River. We are obviously the first plant to discharge water into the river. And in fact, we're the only town that discharges directly to the Mad River. Because the river is so clean upstream of us, it's coming right out of the mountain. And we have one of the most stringent permits in the country. The effluent that we are putting out of our wastewater treatment plant even today is extremely clean. And, we made a commitment back in the 70s to meet whatever the EPA said we needed to be able to discharge into the river so that we could have a collective sewer system here in the town. So we are protecting our water resources through this plant. And so it is a major consideration on upgrading. We do have a plant that's closing in on 50 years old right now. We were very fortunate in that when the plant was designed and built back in the 1970s, they used the best available technology at the time. And we have maintained it, and our operators have done a great job over the last 50 years of ensuring that our plant does exactly what it's supposed to do. We still have equipment in that building that we're using today that is 50 years old. And that's really quite a statement. And I think we really owe a big debt to the people who have operated the plant and maintained it through the years. We are going into the design of our new plant with those same goals. We are designing a plant that is going to be the best technology that we can reasonably afford right now. And we are going to build a plant that can last 40 or 50 years, just like we did before. So that's our commitment to the town, that we're gonna do everything we can to make sure we have a very high level plant moving forward. So we are going to take advantage of all the available technology and wastewater treatment, and we're gonna make sure you get a good facility. Also, our current plant, we are not using it to full capacity, but it has limited growth potential with the system being the way it is right now. So the new plant that we are designing will be able to handle our current needs easily, and it will be built with an eye towards expandability in the future if we need to. We are, as everybody's seeing all over the place here in town, a lot of building is going on where we've just added a lot of different properties, but we want to be ready so that if future development does happen, we are ready to address it, and we can take care of the wastewater generated by it. This is, excuse me, just a conceptual layout at this time. It's kind of hard to see on the picture, but basically this is the existing plant right now, the red and white building. This is the DPW garage. This is town hall over here. So basically we are building a new facility right here and a building here. But this is the main portion of the treatment, and it is between the garage and the existing plant. We have very limited land to utilize for this project. So this is about the only place where we could get the facility squeezed in. We are talking to the property owners of this land so that we can purchase it and so that we can put one of the buildings for the new plant on that land. And this is our current transfer station, right, with all of the dumpsters lined up there and the two red sheds. Because we're building here, this will all be contractor construction zone. So we have to move the treatment plant and we're going to be moving it up into this area over here. I mean, the transfer station, geez, I'm sorry. The transfer station will go up here. We are fortunate in that move of the transfer station that it is, because we are moving it as part of the project, it is an eligible portion of the cost, and we could see reimbursement or loan forgiveness on those costs because it's part of the overall project. So at least we're not moving the transfer station at our total expense as a town. Any questions? Yeah.
We have to keep the current plant operating.
Yes,
We can't
right.
touch that lane.
Good point. Thank you, Rich. So these are our treatment lagoons that we currently use along with the plant. Another constraint that we have is we must operate the old plant up until the day we start using the new one. So all of the construction has to occur with our old plant running. So one of the line items you're going to see in our budget is the maintenance of our existing plant up until October of 2026. So,
And the new plan doesn't use lagoons.
and right, the new plant here is a different type of treatment. And so it does not use these lagoons. So once we start the new plant up, we will decommission or we will take all of this out of service. And this land will be reusable, but it's not available for our new plant. We do not have, there's no set use of that planned right now. That's something that as we get into the project, get closer to decommissioning, that we'll start talking about as a town.
And it's a very interesting point that what's going on in lagoons and all that area is gonna happen in that.
Right, so, yeah, I don't want to bore you to death. We talk about this all the time, but currently our treatment comes into the plant here, it gets pumped up, and then the sewer water runs through these two lagoons, takes about 180 days or so for water to go from this end to this end, all the while it's being biologically treated. Okay. But this gives us a lot of storage, right? So we can shut down our current plant, let the water build up, and then start treating. Well, this 180-day process is all going to be done inside this building in about 8 hours. So our new plant is going to run from the day we hit the start button, it's going to run 24/7 forward. Okay, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because all of that biological operation is happening in these tanks and within this building, within 8 hours, it gets discharged into the river at the same level of treatment or better. So, yes. Yeah, come on, please. I know it's kind of a pain. Hi, Katie.
Is it on?
Yes, it is.
What are the restrictions on the ponds once they're shut down for use in building on them?
We already have tested, there's sludge at the bottom of both of these lagoons. We have tested that sludge already, and the disposal of the sludge and the regrading of those areas are in the construction costs that you're going to see on my slide here. Okay, so it's all part of the 42 million. After that, once it's again, we haven't gotten to that level yet of discussion, but once we decommission this area, it'll be usable land for whatever the town wants to do.
That'll be decision of select board at the time, town meeting at the time.
Yeah. No, because that's part of, and that's a great question because, and if you didn't hear, she asked about any restrictions on use of the land after we decommission them. No, the decommissioning gets rid of all the sludge that's there and the land will be reusable for anything.
Well, it's civic.
Well, it's right now it is zoned special civic. So there's the zoning restrictions, but from the DES perspective, there's no limitation. It's not like we're going to cap it like a landfill. We're not. Yeah, it's going to be usable land. Okay, next. So here's a breakdown of the $42 million. Right now, we are in the design engineering phase. The allowance, the budgetary allowance that we have for that is approximately $1,900,000. We are probably about halfway through the design phase. And we're currently under the $800,000 or what? Yeah, $950,000 mark for that halfway point. So we're doing a little bit better in this area, but there's still a lot of design to do. We have to finish the conceptual design that should be finished by the end of April. And then we will get approval of our proposed plant concept. And then we will go into final design where the engineers sit down and actually draw out all of the plans. And we, at the end of the final design, we will have a set of plans that we can put out to bid. That will take the majority of this year and into the spring of 2024. By hopefully this time next year, we should be looking at draft bid documents to get it out to contractors to bid on. The construction estimate that we have right now, and that includes all of the site work and decommissioning everything I've talked about, is $25.5 million. There is engineering that is associated with that construction period, where that is our resident engineers and people doing testing of the different facilities as they're built. And then the administration of the entire project. That part of the budget is $3.6 million. The transfer station is being designed right now. We're almost ready to put that out to bid. We must finish the relocation of the transfer station by the end of this year. And so we have estimated that the engineering and construction for that moving the transfer station is $1.5 million. There is a line that goes from the ski area down to the current plant. Because we are changing the type of plant that we are using, that line has to be modified. So we have an allowance in there. It's approximately 2 miles worth of sewer line. But it does encapsulate the entire ski area. Yes.
Mark, at this point, how many residences in town actually don't have either town sewer or town water?
Town water, 0. Everybody is
has-
on the
has
water.
Town water,
Yeah, and there's about 20,
rough.
27 or 30 properties that do not have sewer.
That don't have sewer.
Well, that do not have a sewer line going by their house.
Okay,
There are some out on West Branch Road, River Road. There are properties that there is a sewer line, but they had operating septic systems
sure.
at the time we put in the line. Under our regulations, they can use those septic systems until they fail. They just can't replace them. When they
Okay.
fail, they'll have to connect to the town sewer.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Stan?
That 5 million, that's our tab?
No, well, yes, we have the town of, the town of Waterville Valley has the special use permit for the sewer line up to the ski area. So, we, as a town, are responsible for the maintenance of that line. So we have an allowance in here. We have not had, we've had some preliminary discussions with the resort about that line, and we're gonna continue to have those discussions, but right now that line is the town of Waterville Valleys.
Mark Wagner, Greeley Hill Road.
Mhm.
At last year's town meeting, it was said that there's like a 99.9% chance that there'll never be sewer line up Snows Mountain Road. So I guess, is there any change to that? Or are we still not gonna be able to use this thing you're asking us to spend 40-something million on?
We are going to look, we have a road project, which is the next bonded warrant article. The select board will be working, and I will be working with the engineer, the town engineers, to see what the feasibility of that line is. When that comment was made last year, it was because of cost. It is cost prohibitive right now, but we are going to look at it again and see if there's a possibility of putting a line up there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Craig Larson's 30 Snows Mountain Road. I have objections of paying, $42 million for something I have no ability to use.
Mhm.
And there's money in the operating budget that goes to the sewer, which I can't use either. So I don't think it's really fair that we're cost prohibited. I don't like that word, cost prohibited. I think 42 million is cost prohibited. So on this little cheat sheet you gave us, I mean, I'm looking at $2,000 increase in tax fees every year, and that doesn't even count the sewer director that we have here today, his salary, his truck, the chemicals and the whole thing that are in the operating budget. Every other town that excludes people has a district, like a sewer district. And I think if you had a sewer district, I wouldn't be here. But you're asking me to chip in for up at least $20,000 in the next 10 years. And I just have an objections to chipping in $20,000 on something I cannot even touch. And I don't like the idea of cost prohibitive. I think there's plenty of things that I could say in this budget that are cost prohibitive, but they're getting approved.
Okay.
I would like you, I don't see why we're voting on something when you don't include all the residents in the town. It's a fair amount of residents. You said there was 27 houses, let's call it 20 houses on Snows Mountain Road. But there are more potential. There's probably closer to 40 houses that you're talking about,
Mhm.
which is a fair amount in a small town that's only 400 acres. So I'd like you to either reconsider this thing here or include Snows Mountain Road in these numbers. All right, thank you.
Yes, Alan.
Going back one slide. These plant runs 24/7. That means man 24/7.
Alan Burko, Jennings Peak Road. You say the plant runs 24/7. Is it manned 24/7?
We don't have the exact operating plan right now because we don't have the design finished, but it will be manned more than our current plant is. I don't know if it'll be occupied 24 hours a day. But right now we're not planning on that. So it is
Is there
automated.
is there a holding tank on the new plant?
There is, yes, there is a capacity where someone does not have to physically be present every hour of every day, but they do have to come in and do work 7 days a week. So right now, basically, our guys can work Monday through Friday and they can turn everything off and they have capacity that allows them to just monitor the plant, the levels, the water levels. With the new plant, they will physically have to come in each day to do testing and that sort of thing. but they won't have to be there every hour of every day.
Increase the personnel.
Yes, and it
Well,
will
that's
cause
my
us,
point.
well, yes, we will, it will take additional personnel over what we currently have for staffing.
And if my memory is right, we're spending a fortune on chemicals on the plant that we're using now.
Yeah.
Is that going to change with the new plant?
Yes,
Will it go down or up?
no, it'll go up.
So we're,
The chemical, I mean, I'm sorry, but it will, there will be more chemical used. Yeah. So the operating, as part of the design engineering, as part of the design engineering phase, the engineers will give us an estimated operating cost annually for the new plant. That is part of the work that they're doing for us. So we will know those numbers hopefully by the middle of this year.
But they will be higher.
They will be higher than our
Operating
current
costs will
plan.
be-
Well, I can't tell you how much more to operate. No, not until the final design is finished and actually built, quite frankly. It's going to take us a while to work out exactly what those costs are going to be.
But we're not really voting.
But remember, okay, so the $37 million number is an authorization to expend monies to meet all of these purposes, okay? I don't know that the actual cost of building the new plant is going to be all of that $25.5 million. That's the estimate that we have right now. But we don't know, and we won't know until we get further along into the process.
$5 million or so.
Yes, Yeah. yeah.
Why are we voting on this today?
Well, because we can't apply for continued assistance and we can't enter into the contracts in the timeline that we have laid out without this authorization. We need to be able to go back to the state, and we need to apply for loans, low-cost construction loans, and for grant and loan forgiveness monies. But we can't do that without a vote of the town meeting authorizing the money. Yes, we can. That's why we're doing this. That is how this system works.
Small chance that $5 million.
Well, we have $3 million in contingency as part of this request. If we exceed that 3 million in contingency, then we could not spend more than this $42 million total if you pass this warrant article.
I think, Craig, the bottom line is that we have to have a new plant up and running by 1
Uh,
October.
October 2026.
So in order to we have to construct it, and that'll take time. And these numbers are the numbers, the estimates given to us by the engineering firm that we've hired and that we've been working with. And they're as good as we're going to get at this point in time, I think.
So go to the next slide. So let me just address, hold on, let me just address Craig's question. So right now, Craig, we have borrowed $1 million from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank last year that we are using as our current maintenance of the current plant. Okay. That is not reimbursable under any state program. So that's 100% paid by the town of Waterville Valley. So we borrowed that And we are using that to replace equipment and to just take care, get rid of the sludge that we're currently accumulating and that sort of thing. But that is 100% our money. The other 4 million, this is from the 2021 authorization. That other $4 million, we have a state revolving fund agreement with the state of New Hampshire. And they have given us terms on that agreement of a 2% grant. That means they forgive 2% of that money. And they give us 15% each time we make a payment when we pay that back. Okay, they give us 15% off on that payment. In addition to that, we received a 20%, so an $800,000 grant from the infrastructure bill, from the America's Recovery Program, right? That we are using that money right now, but we got those funds. We got the ARPA grant and we got the agreement because you gave us the authorization for that $5 million. It is the same thing with this 37 million. We are, and as Rich said, we have a very limited time frame. And because we only get to come back to you once a year to do this, we need that authorization so that we can continue to apply for these programs. Also, we cannot go to any other funding source like the Economic Development Authority or the Northern Borders group or any other group to apply for a grant unless we have authorization from you to do that. So that is why we're asking for this umbrella authorization to spend it.
So this is the gross.
This
amount.
is the gross amount, the 40.
We'll
yeah.
actually pay a lot less than this.
Are those 3 bucks for once we give you the authorization, go get it, guys?
They're going down every day. There are,
Down every day?
they do, but we are trying to get as much of the 37 million applied for so that we can keep getting reimbursed at these amounts. And seeking that other money that might be available from the federal government to help us pay for this, we need that authorization to make those applications. These, all of the money except for the CWSRF, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. The ARPA money is federal and the CWSRF is state money. I'm sorry, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
Katie Smith, Boulder Path Road. What happens on October 2nd of 2026 if we don't do it?
Well, way before October 2nd, 2026, we are in communications with the EPA and the state throughout this entire process. So they'll know if we run into any problems or something happens during construction that we can't control, then we would have to apply for extensions. But we have to show that we're taking the appropriate steps in order to get that consideration. No, we don't. We have a hard deadline right now of October 1st, 2026. That's what our permit says. And we're going to have a very good reason for not meeting that.
If we give you the authorization to go ahead and do this and get the monies ahead of time, does that allow you to go and get the request for additional like grants, et cetera? But do you need our approval when you do that, or are we giving you the approval by voting on this?
So the question was, are you giving the approval by voting on this, or do we have to come back or to you? No, you would be giving us authority, the Board of Selectmen authority to spend up to that $37 million number. Gross budget. Okay, this is not in addition to the grants. This is a total number.
The Board of Selectmen votes on whether to accept a grant. So we, as your representatives, will review the grants and decide which ones, hopefully all of them, that we will accept.
Any other questions? Yep, Craig. It- That's right. You're looking like my Sunday
I
morning.
think I already know the question, but the 2%, 15%, 20%, we're not going to see that until the end of the whole deal, right?
That's correct.
So technically, the $42 million might be less.
That's right.
So you
And
will
that's
have
what I'm
money
going
for
to talk
Snows
about
Mountain Road,
on the
right?
next slides. Yeah.
So you will have money for Snows Mountain Road at that point, right?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Daryl Fernandez, 22 Flat Mountain Road. Two questions. One, when we talk about the upgrade, the increased cost of operating the new plant, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask the design firm for a range of estimate. Is that 200% of what we pay today, 500%? Unless we're building the first of its kind, they should be able to give us an estimate of what range we're talking about to inform the town. So we know what this new design is, what we're signing up for. You're asking
Sure.
us to approve this. So I'd ask that ahead of March 14th, that the town can know that information
Okay.
first. Second, when I look at this budget breakdown on, I think it's page 5, it was the former page you were on. I don't see any third party kind of project management. So this is a $40 million project. And I don't know that we have the resources in the town who have run $40 million projects before. And I don't know that putting it in the bid for the private supplier to manage that is appropriate. Is that baked into as a separate line item, the 25 million of the construction?
No, the
estimate?
3.6 million
The
right below it.
3.6. Okay,
Yeah, so,
that clarifies.
that'll count as admin. And actually, we had that conversation with the engineering firm today. And we're planning on bringing that project manager on board as early in the process as we can. Yep. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. I kind of covered that slide. So here's, nope, next one. Yep, there you go. So this is a little bit busy, but let me try to explain. Up here is an amount, 4 different amounts, 20 million, 22.5, 25 million, and 30 million. These are the annual or the total payments over the life of the bond, which we have estimated at 29 years. That's maximum that we can borrow the money. These are the total repayment amounts for each one of these amounts. We're doing this because we can't tell you exactly how much we're going to get in grant money. Okay? We're estimating somewhere between the 45 to 50% number and less. Okay. But in each one of these cases, this would be the total amount that we would have to pay back for those borrowed amounts. So this authorization, again, I know that it's kind of confusing, but this is a gross budget authorization. Does not take into account the grant monies or the revenues that we would get towards the project. All right. So we've now, and again, we've made assumptions on interest rates and payment terms and things like that. But we are not going to know that exact number until we finish all the construction and we push the start button. Then we go back to the state and they have been reimbursing us for costs all during construction. So we pay a bill, we submit to the state, they give us that amount back. Okay? We're going to expend whatever it takes to construct the project over the next 4 years. And then, and they're going to charge us 1% interest for that. I call it a construction loan, right? So we're going to borrow bit by bit, get to the end. We're going to start the new plant, and then we're going to get an amortization schedule, and we're going to get how much we have to pay each year. Okay? We will know, we will have an agreement with the state to lock in our interest rate. So we will know what that interest rate is earlier than that. I don't know what year or day we're going to enter that agreement, but we're going to do it as quickly as we can because we want to take advantage of the low interest rates right now. So we're not going to wait until the end to close on the loan. That's another reason why we would need this authorization as at this town meeting. That's why we're asking for it. So that we can get locked in at a low rate. Okay.
When this will impact the tax rate.
And then, so we will not actually make a payment on any of these amounts, whatever they are. We will not make any of these annual payments until 2027 or beyond, depending on when we do the closing. So this will not show up in your tax bill this year. No, they don't make us pay it back. They roll it in. Yeah, they roll it. 2027 is our best guess right now for the first year of tax impact. Okay. All right. So what does this mean for taxpayers making these annual payment amounts? Next slide. So for each one of these borrowed amounts, these are the annual impact on a $500,000 home property here in town. We have a few left. $2027. Yeah. And again, depending on interest rates and everything else, it can be different, but that's our estimate right now. Okay. No questions? Let's move on. Yeah, so I'm gonna, if there are any other questions on the treatment plant, I'd like to move on to the second item. Yeah. No, the town do not, but we are utilizing the administration of our engineering firm. And they help us with our grant applications and with our interface with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. So they help us. Yes, and yes, they help us. Yes. That's part of that administrative cost.
They've already have.
And they already have helped us secure the $4 million agreement with the state Clean Water Fund. Yeah. Okay. So if there are any other questions about the treatment plant? A lot to digest. All right, so I'm going to move on to the second bonded warrant article, which is going to be our road repair and repaving project next phase. First, I'd like to just give you an update on the monies that you have previously appropriated back in 2020 and 2021. We have a total of $1.8 million that has been bonded, approved by the town. We have gotten the loans, and we have under contract work to be done this year from the intersection of Triple I Road down here past the new sign. I say new, it's how many years old already? Time flies. Up here to Tecumseh Road, along Tecumseh Road and Snows Brook Road all the way around to by the golf clubhouse, across from the golf clubhouse. Yes,
Due to Tecumseh.
Yeah.
He talked for more years than I can remember about
Mhm.
that.
Could you come up to the,
can you come up?
thanks. Sorry.
Judy Ritchie, we've talked for a long time about putting a sidewalk in at Tecumseh. Part of the problem is the road gets so narrow at the curve. So if one car's coming and the other car's coming and you're walking, you really have to get off the road.
Right,
So is there any plan to put a sidewalk in?
not a sidewalk. What we're gonna have along this entire route is 2 travel lanes for cars and then an 8-foot wide area for pedestrians and bikes.
Yep.
That's going to be lined off and separated from the car travel lanes. We also are going to work with Public Works and the Department of Public Safety and figure out if we need any physical barriers along that. But once we see what the road actually looks like and what the striping looks like, we'll make decisions based on that.
Okay, thank you. And I will say that one thing I always notice, the town vehicles, the trash people who
Mhm.
always slow down when they see you, they
Mhm.
pull over, they slow way down, especially when they're coming around there. So that's a thank you to the town for that.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Rich Bordeaux. So we're a walking town and a lot of our walking gets done in the winter when it's dark out.
Mhm.
To me, I don't see how putting a pedestrian path in the roadway is a safety issue. I mean, I think it's a huge safety issue and I wish we wouldn't do this. I really am more favor of having dedicated sidewalks. That's just my opinion.
Okay, any
Mhm.
comments? So we, as I said, we have the construction contract is in place. The work schedule, we hope to have an actual written schedule from the contractor prior to town meeting. So at town meeting, we're going to be able to fill in these to be determined date for their start time. And then under the contract, all of this work has to be completed by December of this year. Again, this is existing monies that you've already appropriated. Yes, sir.
So you're saying the only way not to have this go through, that it's a done deal. The only way to not have it go through is to vote it down at the town meeting?
Well, what you'll be voting on at town meeting is for the next phase. This money is already appropriated. The design work is done and the work is already under contract to be done.
It was voted.
It's
at the
been
last- Okay.
voted at the last.
So it's too late for this one. It's a done deal.
Right
So
now.
what are you
yeah,
asking to be bonded?
I'll get to that in the next slide. I'm just updating you on the money that's already been appropriated. Because we have been talking about getting this specific piece of roadway repaved for several years. We have waited because we were looking for funding. There was additional transportation monies available and other sources of funding assistance that we were looking for. So we have waited and waited, and now the money is appropriated by the town. We're not waiting for any grants or anything. We are moving forward with this after a several year timeframe.
Yeah, Mark, will you just explain that the pedestrian bike way is separated from the road?
Well, it is contiguous. The pavement is contiguous.
Right.
But there is striping. And as I said, we're going to work with public safety and Public Works to come up with a way to make sure that we can maintain the road, but that we can get some physical separation between the cars and the pedestrian bikes. So it is a result of our pedestrianization plan. We've had a town board that's been working on this for 5 or 6 years now. It is a plan that works in other communities to have the bike paths and pedestrians integrated into the same surface, but just lined out as a separate area. But we will address as much as we can the safety aspects, because other people have raised this issue to the selectmen. So we will work on that as the project as the pavement goes in.
Alan Burko, Jennings Peak. Can you tell us that this design is as safe as having a curb sidewalk?
It works in other communities and it works safely in other communities. That's what I can tell you.
So that's no. Second, how wide is one lane of traffic?
11 feet.
So you're talking about almost a 3-lane road
Mhm.
instead of a 2-lane road.
Mhm.
I think that's going to look horrible, my opinion.
Hi, Alan Zolbo, we're on my Noon Peak. To refute that a little bit, as a biker, I can tell you an experience. A sidewalk, and there was mentioned curb. Well, bikers are not going to use that sidewalk.
Mhm.
Okay, and it offers you no escape. If you have a problem and you're in a curb, you can't just hop the curve to safety. Now, my personal experience is Shelley and I crashed this year hitting a curb, not in the valley, but and that's as we bike and we bike across the whole Northeast and the East Coast, that is the trend every place. And speaking as a biker, at least, it is much safer than dealing with curb sidewalks.
Mark, I remember a few years back when we were looking at Tecumseh Road. And the problem was, in part, the available land on each side of the road. We had the village that owned the land and weren't thrilled to give anything up. And then you have Forest Knoll on the other side. And when you get to the curve, you've actually got that huge river ditch. So how, I mean, is the town taking some land by eminent domain?
No, we're working all within the existing right of way to get this built. We're just moving it and changing the drainage so that we can move the paved surface
Because
around.
the paved surface is
Mhm.
definitely at the curve.
Yeah.
2 cars when they pass.
That's right. And
One of
so
them is
that will
off
be
the road.
wider when
So
it,
that will be wider there at
Yes.
least. Because I can't see how you get 2 lanes and 8
Yeah.
feet at that curve at all, unless the condo on the right-hand side of the road is willing to give up a fair amount of land so you can move the road.
there is a right of way through there and there is some encroachment both ways
Yeah,
along there, but we got it all within the right of way.
okay, and part of that road goes by the garages and they own that land, up to a certain point.
But we have an easement,
An
a
easement
right of
to do
way
that.
to go over.
Okay,
it.
so you really
Yeah.
do think you can get 2 lanes
Yeah.
in 8 feet?
And a paved area for pedestrians and bikes.
This was all scoped out by an engineering firm.
Yeah.
That we hired, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And we still work with for all of the road projects.
And for people who speed at that curve, maybe the police can start giving tickets. Thank you.
Reggie Breckner, Mountain Brook Way. I think it's an advantage to put this new system in because It will help with clearing the roads in the wintertime. Right now, the sidewalks are really difficult to keep clean and they're always icy. Whereas if you just use the plow truck to come through, you're going to have consistency and it's going to be cleaner and save us money.
Okay, so that's the existing project. So let's talk about the request. Okay, so the request is to go into basically a phase 2 of this. The bond issue request is for $1,500,000. It is a continuation of this plan that we're building this year. The $1,500,000 will be used for engineering, design, and bidding. Hopefully, we can get all of the design engineering finished and actually have a bid document by the end of this year or very early in 2024. Then we would put it out to bid and begin construction in the spring of 2024. I put or 2025 because the way things have been going lately, nothing moves as quickly as we want it to. But the idea is to just continue picking roads. As Rich said, we have an engineering firm that has gone through all of our town roads. They have given us a priority list of all of the roads in town. And we will be using that priority list with current conditions to decide which roads we pave next after this year. The initial thought was to continue the same layout on Boulder Path Road because that would allow us to get bikes and pedestrians all the way from the center of town out to Snows Mountain and the north end. But we did have, with the severe rainstorm that we had a lot of damage to Cascade Ridge and Snows Mountain Road. So we are going to begin, if this warrant article passes, we will sit down with the engineer and look at our priority list and make a determination if we don't need to bump roads like Cascade Ridge and Snows Mountain up a year to get them repaired. They're in very rough shape right now. So, but that is a conversation that will be based on whether or not this request is approved by the voters. Go ahead.
Would you mention that if we do bump up Snows Mountain Road, I don't know if it's on I forgot, we have so many slides. But that'll be the opportunity we'll have to look at not only the feasibility of a sewer line, but I think a water line there as well.
That's right. So our water line on, like an example, on Snows Mountain Road, we've repaired the water line multiple times, like 12 times in the last 10 years. And we have the question that Craig raised as far as the sewer that's why I said, Craig, that it'll be revisited because we don't want to pave a road and then go back in 2 years and replace the water and sewer line. So we want to do that engineering work up front. So
and that'll be part of
that'll be part of the discussion when we talk about the reprioritizing of the roads. All right. No other questions. Next slide. Yeah, so the next warrant article is recreation land purchase. The property owner of map 103 lot 23 approached the town and asked if the town would be interested in purchasing the land. After some preliminary discussions, the selectmen have put this warrant article on. It would be an authorization to buy map 103 lot 23, which is the recreation land down by the West Branch Bridge along the Mad River.
Yes.
Yes, Mike Stream. Yep. Yes, Judy.
should just sit back.
You should just sit right there. Yeah.
Just a question about this. Last year at the town meeting, there was a request for the selectmen to sell some land.
Yeah.
And now we're facing a request to buy some land. So those two things to me don't seem to make sense.
Well, the request to sell the land was a petition warrant article. It didn't come from the selectmen.
Right, but if there was someone who wanted to buy some land, putting it bluntly, why don't they buy this land and the town not sell any of its existing land? Especially since the land we were looking at potentially selling is close to the town center.
Well, yeah, no, just to clarify a bit, Judy, last year it wasn't actually to sell the land, it was to
To negotiate.
give the select board another year to negotiate that parcel of land, which is what that group wanted to buy.
Talking about different parcel of land.
I know we're talking about
Right.
different parcels of land, but regardless of who wanted to buy the other land, if we felt we as a town were in a position to sell some of our land, then regardless of who wanted to buy it, then okay, I assume that made sense to the town to consider selling some of our land, since we were asked to give the selectmen permission to negotiate that. So what I'm really saying is, it seems to be a contradiction. If 12 months ago, we were prepared to think about selling town land, and now even this is only $227,000, we're being asked to buy some land. Those two things are contradictory. So I'm wondering, where it's in the recreation, where exactly is this land? And if there is a project that's out there looking for land, they don't need to buy it from the town, they can buy it from this
Well, the
person.
selectmen weren't necessarily looking to, or the town wasn't necessarily looking to sell the land to the chapel. The chapel wanted to buy the land and the town
Actually defeated.
defeated it at a like 45 to 28 vote or something. So,
I mean, they could have approached the current owner to purchase this land, but I don't think their project could be built on rec land. It's currently loaned recreation. And also selling and buying land, I mean, the selling portion, it was what, 0.4 acres? And we're talking 13.5 acres here. So there are
Yes.
differences between the two.
There are great differences between the
Yeah.
two, and it's probably, this is not the meeting to get into that. But 0.4 acres was around the town square, and I believe
Right.
landlocked. So that was not a great idea on certain fronts. The purpose of the land is a whole other thing, and I mean, certainly lots of people approve of it, and I don't disapprove of it either. My question is really, this just seems very strange to me that, and I believe from what I've been told, the petition by that interested party has enough signatures to put this
It is on.
at. town
It is
meeting.
is
It is going to be.
as a
discussed.
petition warrant, yes.
So at the same meeting, we're going to be voting on a negotiation to sell,
Right.
not selling, but negotiation to sell, and we're going to be voting on buying. So
Correct.
that makes me ask, what's the global plan for the community center, for the Ray Center, for the library, we have so many needs for services and lands. I don't see this fitting in at this point.
Let me tell you what it is from my perspective as an exiting selectman. Okay. That particular,
Congratulations, Margaret.
thank you. That particular piece of land, which is zoned recreational, lies between the Mad River and High Country condominium. The current owner allows people to use that land. You know, with some restrictions. There've always been some restrictions. There were when the Waterville Company owned it, there were with the current owner. It is the last major piece of recreational land in the town. And the reason that it's on the warrant is that the town thinks there's some value in the town owning that land versus perhaps another person who might buy it and put up a fence and say no more,
Or do something else with it.
or do something
Whatever's
else
allowed
with
in
it.
recreation.
So to the extent that the town has control of that land, the town can decide what they want to do with it, basically through town meeting and that type of thing.
So
And that's the reason that it's on there. It's a question for the voters that says, is this something that you think the town ought to own, given it's the last parcel of that size of recreational land left in town? Or are you willing to let it go perhaps to somebody else who might do something with it you don't want done?
And if I'm reading this, it's 13 acres
Yeah,
Yes.
for $227,000.
Right.
It certainly is a reasonable, more than reasonable price to ask for that much land. Is it buildable land? I mean, could we decide if later we are gonna build a community center? If we could build it on that,
It's zone recreation, so anything that's allowed in the recreation zone could be
could
done
be
there.
built.
But we don't have any, as selectmen, we don't have any plans for it at the moment.
No.
We just think we should own it.
And then let town meetings further downstream, select boards further downstream.
The selectmen can issue a variance from the zoning.
Actually, if we own it, I think that particular land, the town doesn't have to abide by the ordinance.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, we would,
Well, technically, the zoning ordinance, it does not apply to the town.
So if there was something in the town's interest that the town wanted to build on it, basically we'd agree to do that at some point. if
But we
we
don't
ever
do that.
wanted to.
You ju- as a, go ahead, yeah, well, it's not what we're playing.
No, it's not what's planned, but it is buildable land and you never know.
it is.
Sorry.
buildable.
It's buildable land, so we could, I mean, you don't know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, look at how much bigger we are today than we were 10 years ago. So we could build, it's usable land. It'd be apparently very nice recreation land. It's on the river, very pretty.
Mhm.
Okay,
There have been some ideas already floated to the select board as to what the land could be used for. The current owner wants a dog park to be part of that. But there are lots of other ideas have come our way, just like ideas have come our way about what to do with the land in the lagoon area.
and it's not, I have a dog, and so does Margaret. It's not like you don't have places to walk your dogs.
Right.
But, okay, thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Tom Myrick,
It's in a flood zone. It's in the federal flood zone. So you can't build anything on it to ever intend to insure. You do know that. And why has it been sitting there for 50 years with a Waterville company having done nothing with it? Because you can't build on it. It's a flood zone.
It's what?
It's a flood zone. It's in the federal flood zone maps. Look them up. Can never build anything on it. And the other question is, what's buried under it? What is buried under there?
Jimmy Hoffa, I think.
I heard a story that the remnants of the old Waterville Inn is buried there.
That's right.
It isn't, do we know it's not a brownfield?
There's nothing in the state records that have it as a landfill with any problems.
But have we tested it?
We have not tested it.
We have, our wells are in the neighborhood and our wells are.
Well, yeah.
But the wells are across the river.
No. At well one, actually, yes, we have tested water there back in 2004 or 5. We did a 1-week pump test on well one. And there was no contamination during that week-long test. So, but that was done for the water system, not
But could I just address the idea if you can't build on it? I don't know. I guess that needs to be seen, but you can also have that land used in a way that doesn't require a building. I mean, I can think.
That's true.
I can think of other uses for the.
So
recreational uses, but-
if you can't build on it and Is it worth $227,000 if you can't build on it?
If you wanted to preserve it, if you wanted to have a picnic area, I mean, it'd be up to towns in the future. If you wanted to have a little trailhead and parking area for the connector where people can come and park there and then just go right on the connector. We have real trouble with parking in that area. I mean, there's already a bike path.
There's a beach
Little
area
beach.
down there.
So, I mean,
I'm very familiar with the land.
yeah, I mean, so even if it
Soccer
turns out,
field.
a field.
Soccer field of some.
The idea is it's the last open 13.5 acres of land that the owner is going to sell to somebody. And he approached the town and he's asking for the assessed value of the land. Yeah, the assessed value of the land.
Yes.
So we're putting it before you.
To
Is that
decide.
something you?
And
care
I
about?
would recommend we don't vote against it.
Yeah, yeah. Someone else, Ray, you have a?
First time and it's, who set the height on this mic?
Just lower it.
Lower it down.
Down, just pull.
I'm
the
not
mic.
gonna touch.
Just pull the mic down.
Just tip the mic.
No,
Pull the
not-
mic down.
I just wanted to mention that land is on the shoreline protection area.
Right.
So there's a lot more restrictions on that land. No, that's okay.
There we go.
No, you're absolutely correct. Darryl? I'll come back.
I'm also short. Daryl Fernandez, 22 Flat Mountain Road. The question I have is, do we believe in putting this forward that the value of this is appreciated 30% in 2 years, given what's gone on in the market? And why didn't we buy it in 2020? Because the Waterville company was very clear and they were approaching anyone to buy this land. They approached the foundation to buy this land. And so it just seems like a premium for something we didn't want 2 years ago. And now all of a sudden we want, and I'd like to understand the reasoning behind that.
Well, I'll take my selectman's hat off and put on my Waterville Company hat. I'm the one that sold it and I was trying to dispose of all the land and that Waterville Company owned. And it was a bargain sale. I mean, I only had a couple pieces left. And this is one of them. And so he got a deal. In my opinion.
And as regards the current price, that is the assessed value. We went through a revaluation last year. And that's the value of the land, the appraised value of the land. So to answer your question, I would say that that's what the appraiser came up with. I'm sorry, the assessor. I get these terms straight, came up with as the value of the land now. As to why we didn't buy it 2 years ago, it's really a simple story. We looked at it, we were very interested in it. I think Margaret and I were on the board at the time. We did have a concern about the fact that material had been dumped in that area in the past. I don't know how many decades ago. We consulted at the time with town council. And they recommended that at that time that just to stay away from it. So we decided not to go forward. When it came up again for sale, we again approached town council. And their view was that it should be doable in terms of any problems the town might have downstream with regard to what had been done in that land earlier. They seem to think the liability was not an issue.
And we are still in negotiations, so
Now you gotta go.
the requirements of the purchase and sale agreement are still being negotiated. So as far as testing and everything else, that can be part of
The price.
what's in there.
The
And-
price is fixed.
And the price is fixed, but the terms of the purchase and sale are still being negotiated.
If this does get approved, the select board need permission from the town before the use of the land is decided.
No, back in the 1980s, town meeting gave the board authority under state law that if they've appropriated the money for something, then the board can negotiate and close on a parcel of land. without.
No, the
That's
question
what-
is, if we
Oh,
buy
the
it,
use. Oh,
can you
oh,
decide to just turn it into a parking lot?
No, we'd come to the town.
No, yeah.
We'd come to the town for approval on whatever we want to do.
Okay,
We
thank you.
couldn't do it without an appropriation.
And even for the final, sale, just so I can finish my thought, they have to hold a public hearing and tell, disclose the terms and have that discussion with the town before they can sign the actual transfer.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for the 3 bonded warrant articles, and actually an hour and a half is not that bad.
So should I close?
Yeah, let me just give you a quick update. I promise 1 minute. We have finished the crossing of the river on the water project. This is the area where we're working. This is our water treatment facility right here. We have done the crossing and we have connected well building 2, which is right beside the treatment facility, to the treatment building. We are finishing, we've taken water samples down here on well 3. And we're just waiting for those to come back. Once we get those test results back, we're going to complete the connection of well 3. So all of this work will be finished hopefully before town meeting. And the only thing that we will have outstanding is the installation of a backup generator for power. So, so far so good. And hopefully by town meeting, we'll be able to report that it's finished. So next slide. Yes, Katie. You
So
need to
right-
sit down.
What?
You need to sit down in front.
Oh, I could. Okay. So right now you're plowing into the Nordic Trail at the water
Mhm.
place. So once it's finished, you'll stop plowing that little
Yeah,
path
the
there?
guys are needing to get access into doing
To the
this
toilet.
final work. Yes. So our plan is there is there are 2 entrances. So the old connector trail will be our primary entrance. And we will use that day to day and only use the other entrance
Like across from Birdie's. house.
across from Birdie's house.
So you're gonna continue to
Yes.
plow that? Oh,
Only while we finish this construction.
Okay.
And then normal operations will be that will be the cross-country ski trail. And then the only reason that we would plow it would be to get emergency access.
Okay.
To make repairs. All right. No other questions? All right, so let's move on. And
At the end of the.
that's
bond.
the end of
Let
the
me
bond
officially-
hearing. There you go.
I
Go
need to
ahead.
officially close the bond hearing. And
For the
so if you can record that, and now we're gonna move, I'd like to officially open. It's a great job, right? I'd like to officially open the budget.
Yep, and
Hearing.
so we're gonna be using this packet now. Okay, next slide. Before we actually start talking about the numbers, I wanted to update you. Last year, we showed you some graphs. Obviously, our demographic changes that have been going on here in town since the pandemic have continued through 2022. And the operating budget that you're looking at right now assumes that the increases that we have been seeing, maybe not to the really harsh degree that they have been going on, but some sort of increase is going to continue into 2023. And I just want to show you what we saw during 22 for the continued growth of our town facilities. Our population continued to grow, so we are up 162% from 2005 down here to the end of 2022. We added additional residents and continued the growth from 21 to 22. As you can see here, not quite as steep, but it is still growing. Additionally, and I think that number, what was that number for 22? 60 or 57 or 58 additional residents came to town during 2022. And we have added 5 new residents just in the month of January. So that trend, that same line is continuing on at least for the first month of this year.
This does not include residents who live here full-time but are not residents of Waterville Valley.
So they don't vote here, they don't register their car, but they might be here
And
on a
the-
semi-permanent or a permanent
given
basis.
the sewer and water.
Yeah.
That
I'll
we're
show you.
seeing, it suggests that there are quite a few people.
All right, so next slide. So talking about water and sewer, you can see we had a definite uptick. The blue is water, the green is sewer use, an uptick on both departments. In addition to this increased use, we are seeing, rather than really high weekends and really low midweek periods, we are seeing a more consistent number across the 7 days a week. So we're starting to see a lessening of the peaks and valleys in our use. There are some other comments out here. I'll let you read them. But generally, it is the trend line that we're looking at, and it is definitely continuing in an upward direction. Motor vehicle registrations, we did have a slight downturn, but we are up 62% from here to here. Now, this is a little bit misleading, and I want to, this measures the value of our building permits that we issued during 2022. We had several large developments that occurred. This is 2020 and this is 2021. So obviously a huge spike here. There was a decrease here in the amount, the value of those building permits that we saw in 2022. But the number that we need to look at here is 117 total permits. That is actually up 19% year over year between 2021 and 2022. So even though the value went down slightly, we dealt with more permits in 22 than we did in 21 by almost 20%. DPS calls for service, again, look at the trend line. It does vary quite a bit year to year, but the trend is definitely up 61% from 2005 to 2022. And the number of cars coming into the valley at the end of 22 there are quite a few. And our calls for service in the month of January are even higher than the current numbers. Right, Chief? Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of calls. Our solid waste disposal, even though it is down, it is showing an upward trend over time. The numbers this year are down, but MSW does vary a lot year to year. And we collected in the month of January 88 tons, which is the third highest MSW number for January in the last 10 years. So we're still seeing a lot of use of our solid waste disposal. Next slide. To help keep up with this during 2020 and 2021, we have started to add to our staffing. We are, this does not include our seasonal staff, like at the rec for the summer camps or anything. This is just our regular full-time and part-time staff. We currently have 25 full-time employees. That's about a 4% increase from 2010 to 2022. Our part-timers are up quite a few, but we're trying to utilize part-time help whenever we can to lessen the overall personnel costs. But it is getting more and more difficult to find part-time help versus our full-time help because of licensing requirements and other things that our employees have to go through. Next slide. Oh, do I have a question? Oh, yeah. Okay, so any questions on the demographics? I got my prompter here. I'm glad. So next, let's talk about the budget overview. This is the fiscal year 22 actual budgets, what was approved at town meeting for total appropriations, minus our actual revenues that we use to set the tax rate, meant that we raised in taxes $3,189,000 last year. This year, proposed budgets are here with the total appropriation that we're requesting, and obviously the 37 million and the other two bonded warrant articles are here. They are offset. The same bonding numbers are here in the revenues, which right now we are estimating that the taxes to be raised in the 2023 budget is the $3,867,000. That is a net change of $678,000. And I'll break it down what that's caused by in just a second. So this total increase equates to $1.37 on the tax rate. It is a 21% increase. And these are the effects on these properties with these property values for the year from the operating budget. We do utilize our what we call the undesignated fund balance. It's our cash balance each year. It's made up of monies that we did not spend from the previous year's budgets, and any revenues that we did not anticipate, they go into this. If they're not for specific purposes, they go into this fund balance. We have this, the use of the fund balance last year was $231,000. This year's budget proposal includes the use of $250,000 of fund balance. This amount helps reduce the amount of taxes to be raised. Can you go back one slide, please? So, or two, another one. So the fund balance use is part of this revenue, these revenue numbers here. So it offsets the amount of taxes to be raised. All right. Just as a note, we do this use of fund balance normally for one-time purchases, and we try to use some amount of the fund balance to help maintain a stable tax rate as much as we can. This undesignated fund balance we do use as our cash flow for the payment of bills and that sort of thing for day-to-day operations. So we do retain some of that, around 10 to 12% of our operating budget in our fund balance, but that is taken into account with this $250,000 number. Next slide. Okay, so the way that I structured the slides, when you see the warrant at town meeting, there's going to be the bonded warrant articles, and then we're going to go into what we call special warrant articles. These amounts are not part of the operating budget. They are voted on item by item by town meeting. So I'm gonna quickly go through some slides here. If you have any questions, just ask as we go through the slide. The first special warrant article that you're gonna see is for $100,000. It's for an information technology security upgrade. This is 100% funded through a grant, but we need your authorization to spend the money. And so this will give us upgrades to our wastewater control systems, some hardware and software to improve our total town network security and improve efficiency. It is funding that is available through the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Department of Environmental Services. And like I said, it's 100% grant money, no town money at all. The second article, Article 9, is $140,000. We applied last year for a self-contained breathing apparatus grant. This is the air bottles that our firefighters wear in hazardous situations. We were not successful with that grant application. This is a reapplication through that same program. We got some feedback on our prior application, and we think that we've strengthened the application for 2023. This is a 95-5 grant program, so 95% of the funding will come from the federal state government and 5% from the town. Any questions on that? Yes, Joan. Yep. Yep.
What happened? Is that what return or?
No, so, yeah, I'm gonna repeat the question, Joan. So Joan asked what we did. So last year we had a similar funding breakout. And we appropriated $30,000 last year of town money as our match for the grant. When we were unsuccessful with the grant, we did utilize that $30,000 and we bought breathing apparatus. And we got one truck, chief, one truck done. And so this is for the balance of the equipment that we need. Any questions? All right. The next articles, I've grouped them together. Articles 10, 11, and 12 all refer to the capital reserves that the town has. We're proposing each one of these will be a separate amount. They total the three of them to $75,000. The breakdown is on the second page of your budget, the original budget handouts, and it is, yeah, the second page of this handout that was around town. You'll see the breakdown of the capital reserves at the top of the second page that total out to the $75,000. Generally, for the road repairs, that's for emergency repairs, like I talked about with the flood that we had during the heavy rains, repairs that we did on Cascade Ridge and Snows Mountain Road were done out of the road repair account. For fire apparatus or any vehicles where we set up a capital reserve, usually we appropriate an amount of money so that if we have a major item, when that vehicle comes out of warranty, when we have a major item that goes, like we had a pump that went on one of the fire trucks, that's a large ticket item, $25,000. We were able to utilize this capital reserve to pay for that repair. If we have money available when we replace a vehicle, we can also utilize this capital reserve to help offset the cost of the replacement of the vehicle. But generally, these are small amounts of money, so but so they do have a dual purpose with some of the capital reserves. As far as the Curious George Cottage is concerned, the town is responsible for the maintenance of the building itself. Because we are the owners as the town, so we keep a capital reserve in case something like the roof or the heating system or some other thing comes up with the building where we need to make a major investment or repair at the building. Okay, any questions on, yes, Katie? Go ahead, ask. I'll repeat it if you can.
In the paperwork, is there something that states how much is in each capital reserve already?
There will be a report in the town report that shows you what's in each one. Yep. And yep, it's under the trustees of the trust funds report, and I thank our 3 trustees for taking good care of that money. All right, no questions. Next is Article 13. It is a request for an authorization to spend $100,000 for the Stories of Waterville Valley project. I'm going to talk about the funding side, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rich. And he can tell you a little bit about the project itself. This project funding is a combination of the use of fund balance. So it's part of that. It's $50,000 out of the $250,000. And the balance is grants. So there's no new tax dollars associated with this warrant article. There is a restriction in there. Can I finish? Yeah. There is a restriction in there that says that the fund balance cannot be used. So the town money cannot be used or exceed until we have grant money. Okay, so it's a 50-50 split. And until we get grants in, we cannot expend any town dollars, is the way it's worded in the warrant article. And the select board will be responsible for making any expenditures and approving any expenditures from the account. All right, so is it a funding question or, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Just 50,000.
In the unfund balance, yeah.
If we didn't spend it, spend it on other things.
Mhm. Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not right. There's nothing in the tax rate estimate that we've shown you that's associated with this warrant article. You could, yes,
Well-
well, yes, you
Well-
could.
It's in the 250,000 fund balance. If we don't spend it for this purpose. It doesn't.
Well, but they can amend things. They,
Yes.
you know,
at
they
town-
can make recommendations to you.
Yeah, at
to use
town
it.
meeting, but it
Yes.
doesn't mean that if this is approved as written, that we can, if we don't raise 50,000 in grant monies, that we have 50,000 from fund balance that we can then apply to other projects.
Right, that's right. So that is a distinction, right? So this authorization that you would be giving the select board is get $50,000 in grant money, you can spend up to $50,000 in town money. That's what it says. If you get 0 in grant money, can't spend anything. Okay, and what would happen to that authorization would go back into the fund balance for use next year. Okay, not for this year.
Mark, it's probably worth just talking about fund balance, that we can only use fund balance as allowed at town meeting. Or at tax rate setting,
Mhm.
the select board can decide to use some fund balance to change the tax rate, to lower the tax rate. Those are the only 2 ways that you can do it. So anytime that you say okay, we're all right with this article and using fund balance. We can't use it for anything else.
Yeah.
It's for that only.
That only.
Cheryl Moak, Boulderwood. I know all about this, the stories of Waterville Valley. I think the community doesn't. And there's a lot of, people don't even know what it is. It's quite complicated. As a hiker, as a walker, I think it needs to be clarified somehow. It's kind of not what you think it is. Okay.
Well, I can start.
Judge,
I
yeah.
can start. We've been working on it, and Brooke, I'm gonna depend on you to help a bit here. So basically, several years ago, as many of you know, the town increased its recreation budget to re-emphasize hiking. One of the important things that people come to Waterville Valley to do. And Brooke, could you just talk very briefly about the programs we established at that time? Yeah, so people can hear you. I'm talking about the badge programs and so forth, the book. Those things were part of our attempt to re-emphasize hiking as a recreational activity here in the valley.
Yeah, so some of the programs that we have implemented are the patch programs, our Pathfinder 70 patch, our Redliner 125 patch, the big project of the Waterville Valley Guidebook. We started on the project of the map and the AIA took it over and completed that as a companion map to our guidebook. We also did the Skyline Loop, which is another map showing people how they can complete a 32-mile loop in Waterville Valley. And we've also increased our hiking opportunities, skiing, biking. We have lots of different things to offer.
Snowshoeing.
Snowshoeing. Yes, we had 9 people participate in that yesterday. It was wonderful. So yeah, those are sort of the critical things that we've accomplished.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So that was sort of the first phase, at least in my mind, of re-emphasizing hiking. And so the next phase included 2 projects, potentially. One was to create a complete circuit trail around the peaks of Waterville Valley. And the other one was this Stories of Waterville Valley project. The Stories of Waterville Valley project is basically an attempt to create an app that you can put on your phone that will help you in your hiking around Waterville Valley. It will include not only the trails and the sorts of things you see in hiking apps like distances and conditions, moderate, hard, but all that kind of stuff, but also to fill it out with flora and fauna information, and also perhaps to build into it this a place for businesses to advertise their what they could offer. In other words, an application on your phone where you in a completely Waterville Valley, you tap on it, you open it up, figure out what trail you want to go on, see what's available, and as you go along the trail, if you want, you can look at it. And not only will it guide you on the trail, but it may tell you about that particular area where you're at. Was it a logging site? So it'll have an historical information as well. So that's why it's called the Stories of Waterville Valley. So the town has been working on it. Basically, it's been Mark, myself, and Brooke. We've been working with a property owner, Marvin Weinberg, here in Waterville Valley, and to try to fill out this idea, try to figure out how to do it. So we employed Marvin this year to put together a plan for 1 year, give us a business plan, give us an operational plan to try a couple of demonstration projects of this application. So he's been for months and months, he's been working on this plan, coming up, talking to different groups. He's talked to a congresswoman, he's talked to both our state senators and both US senators. He's talked to a large number of groups and solicited from them their ideas and what they thought about it. And everything was coming back positive in what we could do. But we realized early on that, look, this is something we're going to need help from in the form of grants. The town, when he came up with the number, $100,000, it was okay. How much of this do we need to at least try to get through grants? And the idea there simply is, if the town doesn't put any skin in the game, no one's going to give us any money to do something, right? We have to put forward a plan, tell them what we're interested in, and see if we can get any grant money. And so far, the people he's talked to have been very positive. The program manager of New Hampshire Humanities, as it says, if you go through with this, he encourages us to put a grant application forward for an amount of $10,000. Said we'd be a good candidate. And they use Travel Story GPS, the company we're thinking partnering with to help us put together this app and to maintain it and run it during this demonstration period. The senior program officer at the National Endowment for the Humanities encouraged us to apply for a grant after talking to Marvin. Amazingly, up to $400,000 to see if we can get this off the ground. We don't have, obviously, we don't have any commitments because we haven't put any skin in the game. We've had discussions with private companies like Subaru, which indicated that they would be willing to help with grant money. Again, once we put something on the table. I won't bore you with more details. I see a hand here, but just let me just finish up here and say, the way we've structured the warrant article is, if we don't get money from anybody, we don't spend any money. So I think, did you have a hand up, Craig, or am I? Nope.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay, so please, that's sort of a general overview. Hopefully it helped explain a little bit of what we're trying to do with this project and why. Yes, sir.
Stan Pecos,
Yes, Mr. Pecos.
Rec Department, 50 grand out of our pocket, skin in the game, as you refer to it. I haven't dug into the great budget detail you got, but if I look at that spending and all the other good money Brooke wants to spend, Rec Department outflow, fees, user fees, how we doing? I can remember the last couple of years, we've had a hell of a deficit. I don't mind doing this stuff, but pay for it. I'll pay my share for the wastewater treatment. You know, we got to do that. But let's get users to pay for this other stuff. So what's the answer to my question?
Could I just say one thing? We were planning to talk about the rec department as a separate entity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One of the things we're looking at, and one of the things we want to explore if we start spending some money so we can hire people to do these explorations for us, is can we actually charge people for the use of this application? So that's certainly on the table.
Okay. Thank you.
So I don't know if you want to move to the
Well-
rec department now. I think we should wait,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's in the, we
It's a
will
separate-
address that, Stan, when we get to the department budgets.
So please, yes.
Just one quick question, Lori Fernandez. Have you looked into All Trails? It's a free app. It does
Yes.
all of this. It's what I use. It shows me if I
It has
can,
33, I believe, Waterville Valley gives you the
but
10
it's,
best
it's free.
trails, right? But it's very minimal. I think what we were looking for was something that was richer in terms of history, geography, the flora, the fauna.
If I
adds
can walk
for-
with my dog, if I can hike, if I can snowshoe, if I can trail run, if there's a
Yep.
forest, am I crossing a river, show me views. What's the elevation? What's the length? Is it a loop? Is it a one way? What was the view? Who hiked on it recently?
Yeah.
So people will tell me if they hiked it yesterday, if there's ice or not ice. All you, what you're saying is this is going to show me exactly what this is.
And more.
And more in
So you're gonna
that,
have more users using your app than what is on this one.
Well, for Waterville Valley, I mean, not for all of,
No, but I'm saying this is all in Waterville. I use it in Waterville.
right.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, we think it would be it would be under our control, the app, and we think it would be a useful addition. But again, we're just putting it forward to the town to see if they want to move forward with this. the decision will be up to you guys. Yep.
I remember attending a select person's meeting and there was talk of using the app, but having to reach a point that you would put your phone up to a device of some sort and it would tell you.
You mean the
Is-
QR code?
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
this not part of?
No,
this
that's not
anymore?
part of the, if there's a QR codes are apparently partially going away. If there are any QR codes, it would be at the very beginning, like on the.
It would be at the, it would be at the trailhead only. The Forest Service is generally in, you know, they have not committed to anything, but they are generally positive, but they've made it very clear that the sign portion of what we talked about before, Cindy, would only be at the trailhead and not out on the trails themselves.
Right. Yeah, please.
Sure. So I spoke to Marvin. One of my concerns is you're walking around, you pick up the sound, you're picking up a sound, and then you have the storyteller.
Mhm.
So we use the word noise pollution. So you're hiking along, you got to the scour, there's 33 look points.
Mhm.
So people are clogging the trail, stopping, talking. As it is, we've hiked it at single file. I think it's gonna clog it up. And I find it very weird that All Trails wants to be part of this when they're offering the same thing. I don't get that.
But they're not currently offering the storytelling side with the history, and it's the additional information that they have said that they want to partner with us to do, which
That's
would
great.
add to their app for the information that
So
that
then
was
it'd be
just shared.
free to, we're paying for it, but it would be free to anyone who uses All Trails.
Yep. It
That's-
does become a marketing tool at that.
Yeah.
point. So,
Okay,
And the Scholar is one of the demonstration projects.
right.
The idea was to see how this would work in terms of the number of people, any potential noise issues with it. People are using their phones now, I think.
Yeah, but 33 lookout points from the parking lot to the scour.
There's a lot to see in Water.
I guess so.
But that's the idea. That's
Always more to explore.
always more to explore.
Hi,
Yes,
Reggie
Margaret.
Brechner. I've seen the proposal and I personally was not impressed with it. I didn't
Mhm.
think it was very well written. I think there was a lot of conjecture. Is it possible to get that proposal out on the town's website so that people can look at it before
Sure,
they make a vote on this?
sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've shared it with anyone who's asked, see what is the two-page proposal for 2023 to see how this would,
Mhm.
and see if this could indeed work.
There you
How to
go.
get back.
On how to get back. There you go.
Right.
Give us your credit card information, you can get home. Any other questions on this warrant article? We will put that information up on the website. Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on to Article 14. This is a two-part article. The town hall is a 1983 building. There are many maintenance issues that we need to address. We've replaced some of the windows with more energy efficient and better insulated windows. But there are still many windows in the building that need to be addressed. The siding of the building needs to be upgraded and painted. We've got insulation that's basically 1980s technology that we need to make repairs on. We've got a very old kitchen facility, and just generally we need to start making repairs on the building. Obviously, with the wastewater treatment facility project coming, it's going to be many years before we can talk about making big additions or replacement of the building, whatever happens in the future. But in the interim, we do need to address, we've got leaks in the fire bays. We've got floor drains that don't work. There's a lot that needs to be repaired in the building. This is just the start of it with $35,000 for building repairs and maintenance. The other part of this money would be used to repair and repave the parking lot at Town Hall. It's breaking up and it's heaving very severely. We cannot maintain it, especially in the winter. And we want to improve that safety aspect because again, we're going to be there for several years, if not longer. So that is what this warrant article would do. We have not put anything out to bid yet, but we're waiting until we have an authorization, and whatever that authorization is, we'll move forward with. So any questions about Town Hall? The next three articles, 15, 19, and 22 are for vehicle maintenance and replacement. We're proposing to purchase and outfit a new police cruiser. We have the ambulance maintenance and replacement. Unlike the fire apparatus, this is not a capital reserve account. This is just an appropriation that will be used for maintenance of the ambulance. But if we have money left when we when we propose replacing the ambulance, any money remaining on this line item in the budget would be used towards the purchase of a new ambulance. If you look in the CIP, it is in the CIP for replacement in 2 years, I believe. Next year, sorry. And then the third article that makes up the 109,000 total for these three is the final year of our 3-year plow truck lease. The next articles 16, 17, 18, 20, and 21 total up to $195,000 for general repairs, replacement, maintenance, and planning. A lot of departments involved in this, the water distribution system, which is the pipes in the ground, valves, and that sort of thing. We maintain a repair account to make emergency repairs. I talked about the leak repairs that we've done on Snows Mountain Road. That's an example of the type of repair that would be paid for out of the water distribution system number. Sewer collection going the other way. We've got lines that collect the sewer. We've got sewer manholes and other infrastructure that we have to maintain on a year-to-year basis. The ice arena, the town does own the building of the ice arena. It is under a management lease, but we are responsible for the capital improvements to the building. So we had an account that was used for these types of improvements. But we have utilized that money by repairing the refrigeration system and making other repairs to the building. So we want to start building up that capital reserve again. The Corcoran Pond dredging is a planning amount of money to bring an engineering firm in and to talk to them about how would we go about dredging the pond? Where do we need to dredge it? All of those sorts of things. Tim has shared contacts that he's made through the resort with dredging companies. This money would give us engineering funds to go out and talk to them and get estimates. Because if you look on the CIP, an actual project to do the work is in the CIP. But we don't want to come to town meeting without a plan. So this planning money would give us the ability to do that work.
The dredging is on the CIP at the moment, scheduled for next year.
Yeah, so we want to do the planning this year so that we can come back with a good number to town meeting for the actual dredging work. And then we have Recreation Department equipment purchase, which is replacement of our waterfront equipment and boats. And those, yep. Sure. Brooke, do you want to talk about that? Yeah, okay.
So the question was, what is the 25,000?
Breakdown for the 25,000.
25,000 for the recreation equipment.
Yep.
And that is for primarily the replacement of the pedal boats. The pedal boats are our most popular and most used boat, and they were originally purchased in 2016 and they need to be replaced. And actually 2 will be retired and 4 more will be added. So we'll have a total of 6. 4 pedal boats delivered is a total of $19,000. And then the remainder will be our PFD replacements, paddle replacements, a new umbrella, a table, a file cabinet, and some supplies.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Kate?
Right now, we are still discussing that. We are, as everyone knows, the boat shed has been moved and they see where it is. So we have an opportunity to continue our operations where we have been. And we also have an idea of operating them on the other side. So we're still talking about the possibilities. It's unrelated.
This will have to be spent just to keep the current operation.
Yeah.
But which side?
With whichever side. So it's not dependent on this.
So, yeah, the boat rentals definitely make money. We, on average, I think, take in about $55,000 to $60,000 a year from boat rentals. So it's profitable. Well, it is for, if you're just picking out the waterfront operations, it is already profitable, but it's a part of a larger budget. But it is already profitable.
Right.
However, it's only $25,000 in, since 2016, where they originally purchased. Is that what you're?
But we have to do it this way because the rec department is a department of the town. So that just with the process of the budget, it needs to come to town meeting for the authorization.
Did I see?
Tim,
You mentioned your.
Yes.
by 2.
Or he's asking if we're increasing the pedal boat. The pedal boats are the 4-person boats that are very colorful and around the pond. If anyone didn't know that. And we have 4 pedal boats and we are going to be increasing that to 6. We have 2 that are really not operable right now. Yes.
Will that increase the number of paddle rentals we'll see in a day?
Definitely, because people will wait in line for the pedal boats has been our experience.
Do you feel that increase in revenue to justify the cost of the pedal?
Without question.
I think Craig, you had a question?
I just have a question not about ice cream. Can you explain it? So like a lot of rumors going on here, for sale for $1. They do have for sale. There is no public.
I think we take that deal.
Whatsoever. It used to be
why are we putting in money in a property that's freehold that we don't receive any cash for or any service for anything?
Okay, so a lot in that, those questions, Greg. So the arena is under a lease agreement with the Hockey Academy. It's a 10-year agreement and we are in year, oh geez, I don't know. I will have that
Three,
answer
maybe?
at town meeting. I think it's 4.
4.
I believe we're in year 4 of the 10-year agreement, but I'll know that by town meeting. The agreement, the lease agreement, is structured so that the town is responsible for capital improvements and maintenance of the building itself. And the Hockey Academy is responsible for all operating costs of whatever programming they run at the arena. We have, as I said, made some improvements as the town. But another part of the lease is that there is a purchase clause that's available to the Hockey Academy during the lease or at the end of the lease. And if they participate in the improvements at the arena, then they get credit for that if they purchase the property later on. If they decide at the end of the 10-year lease to not renew the lease, then they lose their money that they've put towards the improvements. So I got to answer one more part of your question and then you can ask another one. So they have put in money to make improvements. And we are at the point where they have used up what they want to use up for their investment. Okay. So now we need, as the town, to maintain the building. And as far as not receiving anything, there are payments in lieu of taxes that the Hockey Academy makes to the town each year that are equivalent to the property taxes that would be paid on that property if it were privately owned. So we take the tax rate times the assessed value and they pay us that, but it's not an official tax bill. It's a separate payment.
Could you just,
There's nothing, there's no cost to the lease. It's the payment in lieu of taxes.
So they're getting a rate.
They are.
but could you
They're getting
explain?
a rate. They can decide what they want to do with it here, correct?
That's correct.
There's no way you can renegotiate this lease?
No, the lease actually reduced the town budget by over $300,000 a year.
Please.
Well, yeah, but
I
that's,
think that's.
so no, we were operating the arena.
Kept the building vacant.
Yeah, we'd have to maintain the building, absolutely.
I just think it's for their own money, they get to use that building. Yes, they pay taxes on it.
Yeah, they do.
That fee in lieu of that.
But if they were, if they were not in there, we would get no tax dollars. So the 20,
Maybe somebody else get $2.
well, maybe.
Still,
Well, yeah, I mean, we've negotiated.
there's no public access. Still.
Mhm.
No, there is not. You skate? Today?
I think, but what's missing is the context. When the town was operating it as a ice arena, what was the cost?
Yeah, we were losing money. And that's one of
why
the
we went
reasons why we did
to
this.
this arrangement. And what was it? How
It was
much?
several $100,000
Several
a
a year.
year.
And they have
Plus-
a person-
They do not have a purchase and sale agreement. They only have a lease. They had a purchase and sale agreement that was getting ready to close when the pandemic hit. And their business obviously changed. And so we did not finish the purchase and sale.
We could,
They do not have.
They do not have one
They,
right now.
they moved,
No.
they backed off of that and we went to a second 10-year lease.
Right.
Here's the thing, if they don't operate it, if we don't find anyone else to operate it, either the town operates it at a loss of, I don't know how many
Whatever.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, or we just operate the arena, we just maintain the building, and there are no hockey teams that come to Waterville Valley.
Just seems like a fair idea.
For us it is.
Yeah, I think it is, but I think it is,
For us it is.
I think it's for the town.
Any other questions? So I'm going to move on to the other two.
Alex hockey teams coming through. Black Bear Lodge and any other lodges would be serious trouble.
Okay. So
And that piece of land, I think in the deed, it's only allowed use as a. ice
there
arena,
is a
correct?
deed restriction right now.
So it's not as if the town could do something else with the building.
Mhm.
Yeah. well,
Yeah,
that's a
there
deed
is
restriction.
a legal way to
Do
change
that,
that.
but that's
Yeah.
not, it's not a simple decision by the select board. No, I was, well, yes, we could do what we want with the land within the context of a floodplain.
And it's not encumbered just by the floodplain. It's also a shoreline
Shoreline
protected
protection, yeah.
area. So there's a lot of restrictions that the town has on the land. Yep.
Someone else have a hand?
Okay.
Good.
Any other questions on that? So there are two other warrant articles. There will be Articles 23 and 24. They total $107,100. There's a warrant article for $46,000 for the Ray Center preschool proposal and 61,100 on the resort transportation system. Let me just, I think the easier one is going to be the transportation system. So let me talk about that first. We renegotiated a contract with the resort. This is a shared system. The cost is shared between the Waterville Valley Resort, the Waterville Valley Resort Association, which are the businesses in town, and the town of Waterville Valley. So the Resort Association and the town each pay 25% and the resort pays 50%. This amount was pulled out to just highlight to the town that we are participating in this agreement. We have, that this provides the buses that are around town during the winter, servicing the entire town, and the summer trolley system, plus other transportation uses around the community. So it's a multifaceted thing. We have a good agreement with the resort, but just wanted to highlight the amount and show you that we are participating as a town in this agreement. Any questions about that? Okay, the Ray Center preschool item is for the town to decide. Alan, do you want to talk to this for a minute?
Talking to the board is to talk to the citizenry. First of all, I'd like to thank the approximately 45 people that signed the original petition in 2 days. So there would be a warrant this year to support the Ray Center. It took us 2 days. I'll back up. I want to thank the approximately 45 people that in 2 days signed the petition to have a warrant put on. Indirectly, we have the warrant now. The petition was not necessary, but it gave the momentum.
And so this is where we are. This is a little bit of a misnomer, although that's totally the way it's viewed. This is about the totality of the Ray Center. The Ray Center runs approximately a dozen programs, primarily of an educational nature, both for adults and preschool people. The $46,000 is all inclusive of a projected deficit. Okay, we have revenue, we have pie in the sky fundraisers, hopefully. We won't know the answer to a lot of things until they take place. Cannot predict how many students we will have this coming September. Reasonably, we can predict. If someone was here Monday for the school budget meeting, it was interesting. And they said, well, the bottom line is we have a number of known unknowns. So our budget is put together on the conservative side because we don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully, it'll be fine. But they have known unknowns. The Ray Center has no unknowns. Now, and I understand the discussion substantially will and should take place at the March budget meeting. But as we've got into this a little bit more, I found out some interesting things, at least to me, but I'm a little prejudiced on this subject. It's interesting, as I've learned, 44 states in the District of Columbia have government-sponsored preschool programs. Okay. Waterville Valley is part of the SAU. I don't quite understand how it is, but we are part of a regional school system. It's about 6 towns here that are part of that preschool system. 2 of the 6 towns have town-supported preschool. That was interesting. So they have the 6 towns. It is kind of incongruous to me that for a town that wants to have the #1 school, the #1 town, not to be supportive of a preschool is illogical to me. And at the March meeting, we can discuss these things further. One of the things I've learned from a little research recently is that kids with preschool educations go into kindergarten 7 months to 1 year ahead of kids that don't have it. That's quite a statement. So we will discuss it further. I hope pretty much everyone read the article, was in the Wigwag this last time around. We will put in another article. I don't know how to frame it. And there will be this discussion later. But at the end of the day, it just strikes me as being terribly illogical. And also other things come into it. We pay the facility costs of the center. The other programs, for instance, we have a summer camp for the preschool kids. That age group just doesn't fit with the recreation department. Okay, the summer camp is somewhat profitable. People want it. People come to the valley. Some people come to the valley because there is a summer camp for the kids. We are aware of people who have moved to the valley for the school system and that there is a preschool. It's illogical to me.
Now,
So-
can I ask you just to conclude this shortly? We just still have other business. so-
No. I thought you wanted to say something and I was going to conclude.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, all right. So we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Just one point so that for clarification, there is $25,000 in the operating budget of the town to support the Race Center programs. That 25,000 has been there for 7 years.
No,
Since 2006.
That amount of money,
2006.
that exact amount, 20,
Yeah.
25,000.
Infl-
So that's
inflation since then has been 50%.
Yes, and we looked
Yeah.
at that and decided
discussed that.
whether or not we wanted to add inflation and escalator this year. So this 46,000 special warrant article is really what the Race Center needs if they want to keep running the preschool program. Yes, Judy.
Time goes by so fast, so I don't remember what year it was, but it was maybe right before COVID. At town meeting, we talked about whether you call it preschool or you call it daycare for older kids. We talked about the idea of doing this, and as I recall, we had to go to a paper ballot, but we voted no. So then the Ray Center started to do a preschool type program, and everybody thought that was great. The information I would like to see at town meeting, first is, this is 46,000. What are they charging for preschool? And the issue before was that by having a program like this, we would draw more people into our school system. Back then, I think we only had 15 kids. Now we don't really need to attract tons more into the school system. But I'd like to know how many of the kids that are going to this preschool are actually residents in the valley. Because this amounts to, and what do they charge non-residents? It was surprisingly high the last time I think we looked at this, how much our school system has to charge for kids that don't live here. But this is the same as paying the tuition for the kids that are going to the preschool. So I'd like to understand more about their budget, how that works.
I
how
think they're
many
gonna do a
kids.
presentation, Judy, at
Okay,
at town meeting, and I think, Alan, you can hear the sorts of items that folks would like to hear. The reference you made earlier was actually part of the a school budget.
yes,
so-
it was. It was part of the school budget.
Right, and I would just say for reference, having done a little research here, I think in 2020 to 2021. Of the towns in New Hampshire that had sponsored preschool, that went anywhere from 13,000, I think, to 38,000 a year. It's hard to get a hard number on that. So the Race Center would be the cheapest way if we wanted to be involved in it, other than a private business coming in and doing it.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
I just make one more point because we tend to forget things over time. Originally, many of the programs that are done now at the Race Center were underneath the rec department in the town. And the town was paying approximately $50,000 a year for those programs. So when people talk about, oh, the 25,000 that we're giving the Race Center, that was in recognition of the fact that they were taking over something that was costing us $50,000 a year as a town. And now we were giving them some support, half, basically sharing, the savings with them, if you will. So that's where the 25 came from originally, to support the programs at the Race Center. We viewed it as saving 25 for the town.
Yes, Tim.
Mark, to this, can you give us information at the town meeting that would allow us to justify the raise of our property values if we have a proper education system of high value?
We can try. We'll see what we can do.
These, I'm not coming across clear. I've had a very long day at work. But I'm trying to lead into the higher the education is of a town, the better the educational rating is of a town. Does that equate to higher property values?
Okay, we
Thank
can
you.
find out.
I also think, Tim, you know this better than I, but I think according to the state, Waterville Valley spends something like $21,000 per pupil, and the state average is like $19,000. So we're right in the if you want to use average as opposed to mean or anything like that, but we're right in that that area. Yes. please.
So the children, anybody can go to the preschool, so you could live in Thornton, so it's not necessarily Waterville Valley.
Correct.
Students.
That's the way they're running it at the race center.
That's correct.
Well. and
Hold on.
Budget. What percent, 46,000 is of the preschool operating?
Yep.
To see what we're really thinking.
Yep, we'll have additional financial. Yep,
Is
Right.
this gonna be a, that can,
got it.
what the future is.
Yep.
I think we had another question over here.
I'm just, we're talking about $100,000 to be something that's a little bit repetitive. It's what All Trails is doing, spend and, and educating adults. But we're talking about educating children here, and this is our future. It's studies now that coming out that, children going to preschool is really important.
Thank you. Any other comments or? Okay. So just a quick summary slide. If you take everything that we have been talking about with these special warrant articles and you compare them to last year's special warrant articles and the use of fund balance to offset some of the projects, the net increase in this request is $359,500. That's a little bit more than half of the total budget increase that I outlined at the beginning, right? The $627,000. So just putting it in perspective for you. Now let's talk about the other departmental requests. This is always in a single large warrant article. This will be Article 24 this year. There are two main areas that are affecting it: debt service payments and personnel costs, which are wages, salaries, benefits, and that sort of thing. The other operating cost, I have a slide that kind of captures the fact that that part of the budget, all those chemicals and fuel for the vehicles and electric costs and all of that across the entire town budget is actually down. Okay, for our operating costs. But the debt service and the personnel are the two areas that are having major impacts to our budget. So let's talk about the debt service, the principal and interest payments on the loans that we have out right now. For 2023, those payments are $785,000. It's an increase of $274,000 from 2022. As my charts there at the beginning of the presentation talked about when we were looking at the CIP, our total debt as a community on January 1st of 2022 was $6,806,000. We added 2.8 million to that by borrowing for road repaving and the current plant maintenance operation at the wastewater treatment plant. And then we retired $393,000 that year. So the difference between those two, we increased our total debt to a little over around $8 million that we have right now. Yes.
Previous slide.
Yeah.
But rates on our.
Oh, okay. Maybe I typed the wrong number. I'm sorry. It'll be 25 probably. Probably typed the wrong number. Sorry about that. We'll make that correction for town meeting. So anyway, the bottom line is another $275,000 of that increase is due to the debt service payments. And then for personnel, the all personnel costs, again, wages, benefits, insurance costs, retirement system costs for our full-time employees. All of those personnel costs are up about $320,000 for the year. We did a salary adjustment for all town employees every 4 to 5 years. The way we structure our pay within the town is each position is graded and is given a point value that puts it on a scale compared to other jobs within the town. There is a minimum pay wage and a maximum pay wage for each of those grades. And employees are paid not a set number each year, but an amount within that pay range. Okay, so we have the minimums and the maximums. Every 4 to 5 years, we adjust those minimum and maximums, and then we adjust people's pay within the min and maxes. We, at the same time that we were adjusting the minimums and maximums, we did a salary survey of other municipal jobs and related private sector jobs in our region. And we adjusted each position within the town, each employee within the town, an amount based on two things: the regional survey that we did and trying to keep them somewhere near the median for their pay grade that they have. That resulted in increasing wages, a variable amount between employees, but we capped that change at 12%. And there were, I believe, 3 or 4 positions that got at that level. We are also, as part of this increase, we are fully funding a position that was only partially funded last year. There's a full-time position in the Public Safety Department that was only partially funded last year. And then there is a position in the Water Wastewater Department that is also fully funded this year. That was a half year last year. And we are funding one position that's currently part-time. When we move the new transfer station, we're going to take that part-time position and we're going to move it to full-time because of the staffing that we're going to have to do up there and the increased work time. Katie.
So just to clarify what you said, last year we did a 6.5% increase in all salaries, and this year we did up to 12% for the staff. So some people got an 18% raise in the last.
Yes, I'd have to check the exact numbers on the positions, but yes, the total is 18.5. Yes.
But what changed is
Well-
that last year we were working off CPI.
Right.
That increase.
And we did as we most of the time do, an across the board, just an adjustment for all of the positions.
But
We did not do that
Everybody didn't
this
get
year.
12%.
Not everybody got 12%. No,
I understand,
right.
but to clarify that.
Right. But what we are seeing is that the positions that we are advertising for, we had a position in the Water Wastewater Department. We had a vacancy for over 6 months. We had 3 applicants for the position. And we finally found an applicant that was qualified for the job. And when we hired them. They actually took a pay cut to come and work for us, but it was higher than the person that, what the person was making that they replaced. So for our positions right now, whether it's public safety, public works, water sewer, all of the positions, we are seeing that it's very difficult to replace people.
We're in the same
And-
squeeze as businesses are when it
Absolutely.
comes to retention and recruitment.
Yep. Another position in the Public Works Department, usually past history, when someone comes in to replace an employee that's been here for several years, we're able to start them at a lower rate. And when we replaced this position in Public Works, we actually, in order to get a qualified person to fill the position, we started them at a higher rate than the person they replaced. And that's never happened in the 21 years I've been here. This is a new phenomenon over the last couple of years. And I know Craig was just talking to me today about problems he's having filling positions. So we're going through the same situation.
Yeah.
We
I was just gonna make a couple comments. One of them is that when you're in this situation where labor rates everywhere are going up as much as they are, and there's a shortage of people, you have to be very careful when you're bringing somebody in at a rate that appears to be equitable, that you aren't suddenly paying this brand new person with not as much experience more than the people you already have. So by doing this structure adjustment every 4 or 5 years and doing the regional survey, that enables us to catch up. It's just that this year's catch up is amazingly high. I mean, we had years when the CPI was 0 or 1%, and that's what our employees were getting for a raise. But since COVID happened and since all of these things have gone on with labor, it's become more difficult to attract people. The other thing that is happening is that for years we could say, well, we've got this wonderful benefits package that's better than anybody else's. Guess what? They're all changing theirs. They're going to 100% benefit payment in order to attract people to
healthcare.
Thornton or Campton or one of those kind of places. So
Yeah.
they're changing their strategy as well because the market is so difficult.
And when we are recruiting people, if we are getting them from another town, they're generally taking a wage cut to get the better benefits. So a lot of these communities, that's what's driving a lot of these other communities to change their benefits package, because they're not competitive and they're having people taken away from them. Yes, Joan. The 25 full-timers. Yeah. Yes.
Benefits for 25.
We have retirement, we have state retirement, and that is a big piece of that. Health insurance is a big part of that, and we have a few other smaller insurances. But yes. And that does include all of our federal yeah, but that's not in wages. It's in the 200 line is what I'm saying to you. That includes FICA. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's separated out. Yes, you didn't include that. Yes. The other, any other questions on personnel? All right, the other line items, this is a big, long laundry list, but the idea behind this is if you take all of these changes that are line item by line item within the budget, the total impact of all of these items is a minus $1,000. So the rest of our operating costs, department heads and are working hard to make sure that even though we're under the same pressures with utilities and fuel costs and heating and all of that, we're still on a line item by line item basis, we're still able to hold that steady or decrease it. And that is our presentation on the operating budget. Thank you for hanging in there for 3 hours. I appreciate it.
Where's the question about what department is that back is?
Which one was it?
I thought I saw it, I think the record, you said we get that later. No.
Not right now. We'll answer it at town meeting.
We done? I got people leaving.
No, I'm not. Dude,
Do the non-monetary?
yeah,
Yeah, we do have a few more things to talk about.
well, only if you want to. I
No, no,
I
I'm
really
talking
don't.
about the non-monetary.
I know, but there's no reason statutorily
All
for
right.
you to.
Nope, these are the non-monetary articles. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. So I'll call this public hearing on the budget
Nice.
to a close.
Yeah. Do you think it went okay?
I think we're fine.
It went as expected.
Say.